Even before Disney acquired Lucasfilm in 2012, Star Wars has been trying to swap the silver screen for the small screen for quite some time. Star Wars Underworld was originally intended to be that series, and while it seemed as though a live-action Star Wars series would be impossible to make given budgetary constraints and the sort, Disney have at long last finally delivered one that looks to be the real deal. The company's ambitious new streaming service, Disney Plus, is looking to boast a wide selection of premium TV shows within the next few years, and right now, Star Wars and Marvel are its two biggest draws. Multiple shows based on both properties have been mooted, but the first to land alongside the service itself is The Mandalorian, a Jon Favreau-helmed Star Wars series set between the events of Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. Pedro Pascal plays the title character, the eponymous Mando, whose name commands so much intrigue amongst the Star Wars faithful. And while Lucasfilm have managed to keep much of the plot a secret, the first episode has finally peeled back the curtain and revealed something that could potentially be very special indeed. Directed by Clone Wars and Rebels alum Dave Filoni, The Mandalorian's debut episode packs a wallop and serves as a strong statement of intent from Disney. It's not quite perfect, but if the first episode is anything to go by, it's going to be something Star Wars fans can't afford to miss. So, I'm Ewan, I just watched The Mandalorian, and here are 6 ups and 1 down from The Mandalorian's first episode. Spoilers ahead, obviously. And first, the 1 down. It can get a little too self-referential at times. This is fairly par for the course when it comes to Star Wars-related works, but for all that The Mandalorian's episode delivers a fresh and exciting take on the series, it does occasionally stumble when it comes to paying its respects to Lucas's original works. Now, to be clear, this isn't just a Mandalorian problem. Countless Star Wars projects can't help themselves when it comes to referencing old bits of dialogue or rehashing shots from earlier works. I have a bad feeling about this is synonymous with the franchise for a reason. And while this isn't to say that Chapter 1 is overstuffed with nods and winks to those earlier films, there is one shot late on in the episode that mimics the Tusken Raiders' attack on Luke in A New Hope that felt a little too on the nose. That's pretty much it though, really. The first episode is pretty much faultless in almost every other regard, and while I personally don't care for those callbacks to the original trilogy, there's no doubt someone out there will enjoy those nods once they spot them. And now for the ups. Number 6. The Western motif works perfectly. Star Wars has always been a Western, in the sense that the original 1977 classic took major inspiration from The Hidden Fortress, one of the many samurai films by the legendary Akira Kurosawa that would come to form the basis of countless Old West tales helmed by American and Italian directors in the 1960s. Han Solo's as close to a space cowboy as he can get without putting an egregiously large hat on his already cowboyish costume, and there are plenty of other examples littered throughout the franchise that owe their existence to the Western genre. The Mandalorian, in a way I guess, is paying Star Wars' debt to that genre, almost from the off. It's very Leone, and the intro where the titular Mando enters a remote canteen is even accompanied by Morricone-esque accompaniment. Pedro Pascal's protagonist is also typical of the genre. He's stoic, and while the man with no-name comparisons are apt, i.e. Clint Eastwood's character from Leone's Dollars trilogy, he's not exactly emotionally distant. There's a vulnerability to the character, and Pascal is able to sell those brief moments surprisingly well, even when hidden behind a mask. The Western motif also translates really well into action, and to a more lawless kind of Star Wars than we've ever seen before. Number 5. A darker, more visceral kind of Star Wars. By far the most exciting thing about The Mandalorian is its setting. The gap between episodes 6 and 7 has been charted in books like the Aftermath trilogy and in a select few media tie-ins, but nothing as visually detailed as what we've seen in this first episode. The end result is something fascinating, as we're treated to a version of the galaxy far away that feels pretty much uncharted. There's a new edge present to the whole thing, and while the political fallout of the Empire's dissolution never takes center stage, it represents a lingering threat all the same. In the vein of Rogue One, The Mandalorian works hard to restore a sense of grit and roughness to the franchise. There are no lightsabers, the Republic is distant, and there is of yet no discussion of the Force either. What we're left with instead are blaster marks, carbonite vaults, and a suitably perilous atmosphere that intimates danger even when things should feel relatively secure. It makes for a fantastic change of pace compared to the films, and the freedom afforded by the new setting only ups the intrigue factor even further. I'll get to how great the world building is later, but the important thing to bear in mind for now is that The Mandalorian is genuinely something new and compelling. We've never seen Star Wars done like it's being done here. Number 4. The effects really hold up. One of the biggest challenges that was said to prevent a live-action Star Wars show from becoming a reality was the fact that any series would find itself over budget and under-equipped. Disney have encountered no such issues with The Mandalorian, owing to the fact that they are, well, you know, Disney, but it's still a pleasant surprise to see the scale of Star Wars translated almost effortlessly to the small screen. There's a perfect blend between practical and computer-generated effects, and one thing that's also really nice to see is that the show also has plenty of aliens involved too, most, if not all, rendered entirely through makeup and not CG. Given the sequel trilogy hasn't featured so many alien faces, at least not in any ancillary roles, it's actually pretty cool to see actors decked out in makeup and adding to Star Wars' roster of unique aliens. Even the CG, which is only really used to showcase the Mando ship, the Razor's Crest, oh my god what a good name that is, Taika Waititi's IG unit, and the totally not horses but basically they are creatures the Mando uses to find their target in the episode's final act. It's a major success and illustrates the way Disney are throwing behind their content going forward. Number 3. The world building is handled perfectly. The fact The Mandalorian is set between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens is a major plus, surely because it's an era Star Wars fans are yet to see in either live action or animation, but it's the way in which the first episode handles its world building that deserves extra praise. There's a whole unspoken history with The Mandalorian, a name that caught major interest amongst longtime Star Wars fans for two principal reasons. One, because Boba Fett boasted one of the most compelling designs in the original trilogy, and two, because they've had a major part to play in both the expanded universes before and after Disney's acquisition of Lucasfilm. The series thus finds itself having to juggle two very important responsibilities, in that it's the first piece of live-action media to really explore the gap between episodes 6 and 7, and also explore the history of Mandalore in a post-original trilogy setting. It satisfies all kinds of Star Wars fans in that respect, as those desperate to learn more about Mandalore will find themselves satisfied with the many nods to the planet's warrior culture, and those unfamiliar with the Mandalorians will get a concise education on one of Star Wars' most intriguing factions, as well as the state of the galaxy in the immediate years following the destruction of the second Death Star. The first episode handles both duties perfectly, never revealing too much and disclosing information organically rather than through contrived dumps of exposition. Number 2. The team-up between IG-11 and the Mando. Taika Waititi was kind enough to grace Star Wars with a turn as assassin droid IG-11, an IG unit who resembles one seen in 1980's The Empire Strikes Back. His voice is instantly recognizable, and while it is a minor role, he leaves one heck of an impression by the time he departs in the episode's final minutes. Chapter 1 included plenty of action, but director Dave Filoni saved the best set piece for last. As the Mando approaches the compound holding his target, it appears as though an IG unit from his bounty guild has beaten him to the punch. The element of surprise is then lost, and so the Mando resolves to bargain with the droid to ensure he still gets paid. The bartering process is hilariously dry, while the novelty of seeing an assassin droid in action won't be lost on the Star Wars faithful, who've been dying to see how an IG unit would actually work for a pretty long time. This is also where the action reaches its peak. Pascal's gunslinging prowess really comes into focus, as does Filoni's direction and Greg Fraser's cinematography. It's a tremendous sequence, and one that only hammers home the Western vibe even further. And number 1, the ending reveal is perfect. It was immediately apparent from Werner Herzog's speech to the Mando that their target would be, well, controversial. No puck was issued, and the only identifying markers were their age and their last known coordinates. Given the client was also a part of what appears to be the Imperial Remnant, it was pretty clear that, whoever the Mando was tracking down, their conscience would be, well, muddied all the same. After dispatching the mercenaries guarding the target, the Mandalorian and IG track their tag to a nearby crib. Inside is a baby Yoda, or rather a baby belonging to Master Yoda's species, which Star Wars has never actually revealed, by the way. While IG is eager to pretty much kill the baby then and there, the Mando opts instead to murder his partner and protect the child, in a decision that's sure to put him at odds with both the Imperial Remnant and potentially even his own guild. But this is more than just a great premise for the ensuing 9 episodes. It threatens to disclose one of Star Wars' great mysteries, and that is the origin of Yoda's people. This particular child is said to be 50 years old, which places their birth in 41 BBY, 9 years before the events of the Phantom Menace. That's one old baby, but what does it mean? Are they related to Yoda? Yaddle? Did they get down together? Are they Force sensitive? One would assume the lattermost question is true, given the Empire's demand to study the target alive or dead. Whatever the reason, what a fascinating start to the first live-action Star Wars show. Let's see what comes next this Friday. But I want to know what you all thought of The Mandalorian's first episode down in the comments below. Once you've done that, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell, as it really does help us out in the long run. You can follow What Culture Sci-Fi on Twitter at WhatCultureSci, and me on Twitter at YouRunesThings. Until next time though, have a great day, and may the Force be with you. Bye!